miss out on listening to your favourite segment of Sunshine's Table Talk with me, Leah, well, don't worry. You can catch up now. I hope you know that you are amazing this morning wherever you are. And it's also amazing to have you join me on Sunshine's Table Talk this morning. Hello, it's Leah that you are listening to. And thank you for giving me your ear today. And I'm joined in studio by the wonderful Elson from EG Financial Services. Hello, Elson.
Good morning.
How are you?
Great.
You feeling excited for our topic?
Excited to be back.
Oh, I tell you what, I love chatting to you. You've got the best energy. I just think, yes, I'm ready. I'm ready to go on a Tuesday morning to talk about finances. Let's talk about the stuff that's popping up in the news. So there's a lot of conversation around changes that are coming through legislation. But according to you, it's not actually that scary. There's no actual concrete legislative changes yet.
Not yet. At the moment, it's just a consultation paper.
Right.
And the government is inviting anyone to write in.
Yeah, okay.
And see how they feel.
Yeah. Okay.
Submissions close on the 31st of March.
Oh.
So there's still time.
Thank you for that little plug. So it's just asking people what they think about the superannuation and about if
Correct.
It's working pretty much.
Yes.
So are they trying to figure out if people are happy or not with the current setup?
No, I think the main objective is to define what superannuation is. So they want to have a conversation about what is retirement,
okay,
and how are we going to be paying for retirement. And they want to, hopefully, at some point, lock it in.
Yeah, okay.
Which we'll talk about.
Yeah.
Because this locking in thing, what does it actually mean? And then, do we want it to be locked in?
Exactly. Because there's a few articles going around that have sort of talked about some of the ideas and whether that is to, getting out excess superannuation or the way that you top it up or what you, in terms of, I suppose, extra tax and how does the tax apply to superannuation. So are any of those things that we need to be worried about or it's just all talking points?
No, there's nothing set in stone.
Okay.
And if you actually read the 14-page consultation introduction or paper, it just really brief strokes on what the government is thinking.
Yeah, sure.
And that's where a lot of, I think, the media is now speculating that, could it be that they're going to do this and this as well? Okay. But it's just a consultation paper inviting the public to respond.
And that's what I think I wanted to start for everyone today, before we get into our conversation, because I think it's important to mitigate any fear that might comes up sometimes when you read these articles online. Then you think, oh, great, now what I'm going to do, blah, blah, blah. And we can go into panic mode when these things, haven't even popped up. And you have to remember as well speaking from a news sort of source and media source ourselves, that media outlets are they're trying to share information, but then they also need you to read it. So then there's always going to be an angle, but you've got to make sure you always do your own due diligence and not respond out of fear. So I think that's a great first talking point. But what I want to know, Elson, is let's talk about retirement. What does retirement look like at the moment? And I guess what could it look like? Or is it changing, do you think? Because I feel like the way that people used to retire before isn't necessarily what we want out of our retirement now and therefore out of our superannuation. That's
exactly correct. And if you think about how the government models retirement now, this picture that they are painting is what my grandma, it's how my grandma retired. That is spending hours watching TV, maybe visiting the local club once or twice a week, going to the shops every now and then, rinse and repeat. Yeah,
it's a little bit dull. I don't think I could live like that. But, lots of people have, and that's been wonderful because they've had a different upbringing, right?
Correct.
Like you mentioned before off air about how TV was new. So, of course, you're going to want to sit when you retire and catch up on all the shows you've been, waiting to hear or see or whatnot. But it's different now.
Correct. Back then, the TV and the telephone were the two biggest innovations in their lifetime. And I think that generation as well, they worked really hard. They have very little luxuries. They have very little time for luxuries.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think the notion that now I can spend some time after I've worked all my life to, relax, kick back, I think that's a luxury for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when you look at our lives and the way that we live our lives right now, it's very different.
Yeah.
We have the internet, we have travel. That has opened up a huge range of different things that we can think about in terms of retirement. And I think for governments to lock in what they think retirement is is very dangerous.
Is that something that they're doing at the moment when it comes to, I suppose, looking at the legislation around superannuation? They're saying, okay, well, this is what we've modelled as retirement. This is what it looks like. And therefore, they make decisions based on that.
Correct.
And so
they want to lock it in. They want to create a set of rules to lock in. But what I feel is that our retirement is different now. And it will be very different going forward. I'll paint to you some pictures, you see whether it's that is that going to be possible, right? In terms of retirement. Now, can you imagine the time where we cash in everything we've got, pay a company, and get flown to the moon to spend 20 years?
True.
Can you see it happening? Do you know?
You don't know. I mean, I don't know.
No, but it's possible, right?
Yeah, sure.
And can you imagine the day where, again, for a sum of money, we cryo freeze our bodies and we upload our brain to this virtual world and we spend our retirement in the virtual world?
Yes.
It's far-fetched, but it could be possible.
Yes, exactly.
And I think 20, 30 years' time, that which we think is far-fetched could become a reality. I mean, there could be other things that would have come up that we would consider as our retirement. And it's going to look very different.
Exactly. I mean, even now, the amount of people who then in their retirement will go get a caravan and go around Australia or whatever it may be. There's so many different ways of doing it. We have Lauren on the phone who has given us a call. Lauren, thank you very much for ringing in and joining the conversation. I'd love to know, though, what's your plans for retirement? Do you have sort of a dream situation of what you would like to happen?
I think my dream retirement is being out on a little farm and hopefully not too far from my kids and
amazing.
Enjoying that.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people who would love to have a little plot of land somewhere, slow down, grow your own veggies, all that sort of thing. Have you?
Yeah.
You've got an area that in mind that's like a dream area?
We do. We're already kind of up north, east of Perth, but it's got a long way to go.
Yeah, amazing.
Hopefully when we're retired, it'll be in good nick. So
oh, fantastic.
That's the dream.
I love that. I think that's a great dream and a great way to retire, and I think something that the government probably has not considered when it's thinking about superannuation and all of the rest. Elson, when we are looking at retirement, so obviously Lauren's got the wonderful the farm life, which I think is fantastic. And honestly, when I think about my retirement, I think I'm probably the same, but I think I'm like Denmark area. I don't want animals because I think I wouldn't take care of them. But even just a house close in like somewhere that's got a different community. But like we said with Lauren, like the government isn't taking that into consideration that people might want to move out of the city.
That's right. Yeah.
So what's the expectations there for what they think retirement will look like?
I think if you look at the Association of Superannuation Funds of Australia, so they do a lot of modelling in terms of how people are retiring and how much it costs, and they put up a little little paper every quarter that keeps into check as to how much people are spending and how much you should be allocating.
Yeah.
So for anyone who is retiring at 65 and you are single, you need about 540.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and if you are a couple, 640,000.
Cool.
For they call it a comfortable retirement.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, and when you look at this comfortable retirement and you break it down as to what they have put in that basket, you will see things like watching movies, streaming services, watching TV at home.
Yeah.
You have things like visiting the local club.
Yeah, right.
Which I've had many conversations with people who are going to retire, not retire.
Yes.
A lot of people don't join clubs these days.
No, I was like, I don't think I know many people. Like, obviously they still exist, and there are people that are joined up to their, the bowling club or the RSL or whatever. But then maybe for a lot of younger people, that's not. I don't think that's now.
Yeah, it's no longer part of their daily activities. And they have put things like, for example, if you want to travel, you can travel once a year domestically.
Yeah.
4,000 for the couple allocated. 4,000.
No, that's not right. That's like
maybe if you
2
live in
days.
Sydney, maybe if you live in Sydney, but
Exactly.
from Perth, I don't think you can go
Well, this
anywhere
is the
decent.
other thing I think as well, right? So you're coming up with rules for a whole country where the way that we do things here in Western Australia is so different to the eastern states. And unless you've lived in both places, like I've had time in Brisbane and Sydney, and then I've also grown up in Perth. And even though I think, yes, there are lots of similarities, the way we do life is so different, you know? Like you can go up to Queensland and go to the Port Douglas and have a week there and then come back and you could drive the whole way. But if you're in Perth and you want to do that, like, you've got to have the flight and it's just completely different.
Entirely different.
Exactly.
And get this. Under their modeling,
Yes.
and this is for a comfortable retirement. So this is like the gold standard for them. You can only go for an international travel once every 7 years.
Oh my goodness. That's hilarious because I feel like people would just not cope if that's all that they were allowed. I mean, we've got to take into consideration Bali alone for people in Perth, I think, is like a once every year. That's the equivalent of us going to the Gold Coast or whatnot. It's usually cheaper. But I guess I would love to know, like, where are they getting this information from? Like, how far back are they drawing this kind of standard of retirement, I say in like inverted commas?
So all this information is gathered from the ABS. So when we fill in our census data and they look at what retirees are doing, and that's where they sort of gleam in terms of how can I put together this basket of goods that I can use as a proxy for what retirees are doing.
Yeah.
And so this is based off really 2 generations ago.
Yeah,
because
wow.
people who are retired now are really our grandparents,
Yeah.
You know?
And I suppose in 2 generations, how much has our lifestyle changed, what our needs are, our wants, the way that we do, like travel or whatever it may be. So it's quite fascinating to then go, okay, let's have the last 2 generations be sort of the base point, because in another 2 generations, like you said, we're going to the moon. You know? We're doing everything else.
It's coming.
Is it? You're excited. You're like number one signed up. Okay, well, then if we are planning, regardless of what the government says how much we need, we've sort of mentioned what they've mentioned as well about the base level that we should have for retirement now, which still is, it sounds like a lot, but then it's not really, especially with the inflation and cost of living, all of that kind of stuff. So how much do you think that we would need? And how do we know if we're in a good spot, I suppose, of what our super is looking like at the moment? Yeah,
I think sometimes we get so caught up with that magical number.
Sure.
And that's why we always say, how much we need. And I always I try to encourage people to ask a different question, and that is, what do I want in retirement?
Right, okay. The wish list.
Correct. So I think if you start off with what I want, then the how much I need could possibly be a little bit easier to answer. And this notion of what I want, again, people would rattle off, I want a boat, I want this, I want that. Again, I think that's somewhat the wrong approach, simply because some of those things that we think we really want, like, for example, we want a boat, when we actually hit retirement, maybe it would have changed.
Yeah, exactly.
It could be right now we want this particular car, but then when we retire, it could be an electric car.
Well, and the other thing is, we don't know how we're retiring in terms of health. So, hopefully you are retiring healthy and well and able, but you also then may, not be able to, like, you get seasickness every time you get out on a boat. And so the boat's no longer a great plan anymore.
And I don't think when we started out our journey, so when we are, if you think back, when we are studying, we think, what are we going to do for the rest of our career lives?
Yes.
I don't think we'll be approaching that thinking, I want to earn, say, 50 grand. Or, I want to do this particular trip to Brisbane for my business.
No.
You don't think of your career that way. You think of what you want to achieve.
Yeah.
You think of your dreams in terms of what type of impact that you want to, do and make in this world. So I think retirement is exactly the same, but in the opposite.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so when you approach retirement, I think you cannot be thinking about what I want to do. you must be thinking of what can I or what do I want to achieve?
Yeah, great.
What are goals and missions that you want to tick off?
Yeah.
And I think when you approach retirement that way, trying to determine the amount that you need gets a little bit easier.
Lord says, retirement to me would be living in a community village with a community farm and garden, living life to the fullest, helping others enjoy the rest of their lives without the hustle and bustle and stress of the rat race. I love that. Just anything to do with community, people, thinking about a garden. It makes me take a deep breath in and relax a little bit. And then we also have another message in from David, who has said, we have an SMSF, which I never understand what that stands for, but I'll let Elson you answer that, which it has invested in property. I suppose we are relying on the income from properties. This should afford us to be able to do the great Aussie lap and look after the family. We are just looking to be comfortable with the same level of freedom that we have now. We're only 40, so there's a bit to go before we get there. And I guess that's kind of what we all want. We kind of want to be able to keep the freedom and the opportunity to do what we want to do, but we don't have to work when we're there. And hopefully that, because they are only 40, that seems like they've got time. Elson?
A lot of time.
Okay, good.
Well, the government wants us to work till 67.
Yeah, true.
And I'm not surprised that in a couple of years' time, that will go up to, 70, 75.
Keep us going. Yeah.
But what they have said is that they have invested in property.
Yes.
And SMSF is a self-managed super fund.
Okay, great, yes.
So they're managing their own retirement funds.
Yeah, okay.
And the rule of thumb, the textbook rule of thumb, is that in retirement, you need about two-thirds, about 67% of your
pre-retirement
spending.
Right.
So if you just, that's a textbook's
Sure.
definition of how much you would possibly need in retirement. So whatever you're spending now in retirement, you should need about two-thirds of that.
Right, okay. Two-thirds.
So that's,
I'm going to write this down. Two-thirds.
So that's a textbook definition of a rule of thumb of guessing how much you need in retirement. But as I mentioned, and I think some of our retirement is going to look different. Some of us may want to tick off that bucket list at the start of our retirement.
Sure, okay.
We might want to do that travel that we have put off for a long time, and we know that we are still healthy to do that big travel.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe there's like a plot of land that we want to buy, and I think that takes a lot of money up front.
Yeah, I guess.
And then it might take a lot less ongoing. Okay, so I think number one rule in terms of retirement planning is do not think of retirement as not working.
Yeah, okay. I think that's very important. It's shifting the mindset because you can still have, being active and doing things and passive.
Correct. And you might be earning income. So I think and that's again 2 generations ago. They work like crazy and not working is it.
Yeah,
that's what they want to do. But for us, I think a lot of us can extend. So it's not working. Mm-hmm. It is not more fishing or golf.
Okay.
Even though golf is great.
Yeah, okay.
And it is definitely not more holidays.
Right.
See, a lot of people think, I'm going to be doing all these holidays. But that's not 30 years.
Yes, you can't holiday for 30 years. I mean, that would be nice, but...
Well, yes. So I think, I talked about thinking about your retirement in terms of your goals, your achievements that you want to do, and mission. What is your mission? I think when you think around those kind of concepts, you'll be asking yourself things like, how can I contribute back to either family or the wider society?
Yeah.
Just as when you are studying and you're thinking, how can I contribute to the wider world, in retirement is no different.
Yes.
So you have 30 years. You have had this huge bunch of experience that you have acquired through life. It's such a waste that you just sit back and do nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So it can be, obviously we're speaking very specifically about finances, but I suppose that lends itself more as well to being part of the community and like we had Lord say about being in the community village and a community garden and just creating those connections with people. And they can be part of your goals or what your sort of things you would like to achieve in retirement, because then that will shape the money that you need for it.
Yeah.
Sorry, yes.
Now, I'll give you 2 examples.
Please.
Because So one client came and asked, how much do I need to retire? We had a conversation, and at the end, they decided that they want to set up they want to buy a plot of land, and they want to set up a refuge for people. So the conversation that we are now having is not how much they need to survive, but how much they need to achieve their goals.
Yeah, great.
I've got another one. She said that she wants to take up archery when she retires. And she wants to start an archery school.
Oh, cool.
So again, it looks entirely different, right? So it's no longer about what I want to do. It's about how I'm going to be fulfilled in my retirement. It's a different conversation.
And to finish our chat today, I'd love to know if you've got a couple more tips for us in regards to planning and our superannuation. Yeah, what can we do to capitalise on the money and the retirement and the whole shebang?
Okay, so if you are not yet retired, so this is where you can still do something about it.
Sure.
Think about your career, think about your hobbies, and think about your strengths. Mm-hmm. So what are the three different components? Because your career, you would have gained experience. Mm-hmm. Your hobbies, that's what you like. And your strengths, that's the thing that makes you tick. Now, if you put all those three together, that will give you an idea of what you could be doing in retirement.
Right, okay.
Then you start to create that wish list. What do you think? What is possible? Have a chat with people who are closest to you. You'd be surprised that when you say, I think I would do this, and somebody else, no, you should be doing something else because you're great with people or you're great with kids.
Yes.
And then that's where I go, I didn't feel that I'm good with kids, but you're great with kids.
Yeah.
So maybe you can plan your retirement around something with kids.
That's a great way to look at it. I don't think people really think about their retirement in that same sense of skills or, what sort of things you can still give back. Just because you're no longer working in the same full-time capacity doesn't mean that you can't be,
Exactly.
using all your skills.
And then when you have that rough picture, you start to write down numbers.
Yeah, okay.
Put numbers down at the back of a napkin, do some research.
Yeah, sure.
That's what I do with all my clients.
Yes.
I take them through the journey, and then hopefully at that point, the picture of their retirement looks a bit clearer.
Yeah, okay.
Now, then you can go on to, say, for example, the moneysmart.gov.au.
Yep.
So that's the government's money website. And you can pop in some numbers there to see how it looks like.
Right.
So that's a very good tool to give you a rough example or gauge of how much you need to fulfill what you want to achieve in retirement.
Amazing. And now to finish, do you have any other little tips or anything you'd like to throw out to the listeners before we wrap up with the chat today?
Retirement is not scary.
Okay, that's good.
It is like anything else. If you think back when you are starting your career, it looks very daunting. But when you get there, if you have done some planning, if you put some heart into it, it's going to be fabulous.
Absolutely. That is fantastic. Thank you, as always, Elson, for all of your insights. You're an absolute whiz, I would say. You've been listening to Sunshine's Table Talk with me, Leah. Remember, you can hear me live every single day, Monday to Friday from 10 to 12. See you then.